Greetings, brothers and sisters. Some big news for Hunter Biden, Hunter J. Biden. um, but I want to go through this Amber Depp Johnny Hurd thing. um, a comment I want to address from somebody who just doesn't get it, and this whole thing about rooting for Johnny Depp, and a bunch of Me Tooers who are really upset by this, and both of them are on the wrong side of this thing. Not that there's a side, they're just, not in truth with it. So this is Twitity. I guess this is I believe this is the Italian version of Twitter. This is Amber Heard's checkmarked, real Amber Heard. So excited for Kamala Harris to bring her unforgiving wit and unwavering strength to the future Democratic Party's landscape. So proud. One of my viewers sent me a picture of this, and I went and found it, where it originated on Amber Heard's Twitter. There they are together. There's just too much unlikability here. Right? There's just so much, like two people who are so unlikable cannot be in the same picture. Throw Hillary in there. And, there's going to be some sort of cosmic event. I can't get over Kamala J. Harris just killing the game. Thank you for your bringing so much of that much desired passion, energy, and authenticity. Authenticity. She can't use the word authentic in any framework, right, in any context, because she's so inauthentic. And you can't use that word about Kamala, right? They're both so inauthentic. Authenticity and unapologetic belief in standing up for those beliefs, no matter what privilege is trying to speak on top of you. So let me read that again. The unapologetic belief and you standing up for those beliefs, no matter what privilege is trying to speak on top of you. Is the belief in Kamala really wanting power and doing anything to get it? Let's do the Kamala memes right here.
Which is why we will work together and continue to work together. And to work together on, and I know we will work on this together. But we're not going back. We are not going back. Which party and which party, which party and which party, anyone in our country may face a future where the government can interfere with their personal decisions. Well, we say, how dare they?
But anyways, this was posted, where's the date on this thing? On April 29th, 2019, right? See, that says year in whatever language. I think this is Italian, but I'm not sure. So this was when Kamala was running against Jojo Magoo. She ended up not getting one vote cast for her because of her authenticity, right? Nobody liked her, and she withdrew without even running in one primary. And so this is another one, Amber Heard fan page. This is the suspense was unbearable. We can finally breathe now. Congratulations to Joe Biden, just elected 46th president of the United States, to Kamala Harris. And then it says here, there's Amber Heard casting her vote. There she is again with Kamala. There they are. This is a weird expression. And there she is again. She voted. She has a fan page, Amber Heard fan page on Twitter. And it's got 189,000 followers. And this is Amber Heard Italian fan page. And there's those pictures again. But anyways, two unlikable people that are connected through whatever this is, right? Me Too founder Tarana Burke reacts to Depp Heard trial verdict. A jury of 7 found largely in favor of Johnny Depp, believing Amber Heard lied when she said he abused her. Then this one, Amber Heard verdict blasted as setback for women in domestic violence survivors, the Me Tooers, Amber Heard was not credible as witness to the jury, some legal experts say. Yeah, that's would have to be it, right? You have to be an expert. It was his word against her word. They went with him. Therefore, they didn't believe she was credible. Okay, so let me get to the other side of this thing, the Johnny Depp side. And here is the comment someone left, I think last night. Got to make it a little bigger here so I can read it. This is a video entitled JoJo Bows Before the Queen, Johnny Heard, Amber Depp Verdict. And, anyways, this person says this. People are championing truth, not Johnny. People are demonizing manipulators, not Amber. This is far bigger than just two humans. This is about stardom. This is not about stardom. This is far more sweeping than that. This is about the depths of visceral, gut-wrenching twisting of truth. Humans are sick of getting played everywhere they turn. And so again, not getting it. And let me explain this. So with both cases here, right? So there's these women who are saying this is a step back for women and a step backward for the Me Too movement, all these things. And this person's saying that all these truthers and people that were rooting for Johnny Depp weren't rooting for Johnny Depp. They were rooting for these manipulators to finally get their due. People who manipulate truth, right? And both are, extraordinarily wrong because they're looking at it like one person had to be the victim and one person had to be the abuser, right? That's how everyone's viewing this. That one of these people is lying and the other person is the victim of their lies, right? One of these people is abusing the other one. There's a good guy and a bad guy here, right? That's what all of these various ways of looking at it are saying. And also the jury. Now, the jury's saying they believed his side more than they believed her side, right? Regardless of any physical evidence that was undeniable. They both had their stories. And really it was about she was unlikable and unbelievable and inauthentic and unbelievably insincere. And he was too. He wasn't great either. She was just worse. And the thing is, just because they ruled in his favor doesn't mean that some of the things she said he did to her didn't happen. Maybe it all happened. But what's not believable is that she was the victim and she didn't play a role in any of it. And she didn't do anything to him. She didn't provoke it. She wasn't a part of it. She wasn't manipulating the situation. The way that she was acting and fake crying and all those things made it, seem as though she was being deceptive or she was deceptive, right? But maybe he did all those things. We don't know. But we do know that she was not some helpless victim that she was pretending to be, right? And that's the important piece to this. And neither was he. And that both of them had a reason internally, and I've talked about this before. If you're in a relationship with somebody like this, and I personally was. Now, in terms of this Amber Depp, Johnny Heard thing, we don't know if it's fake or acted or staged or distraction. I mean, there's all kinds of ways of looking at it, right? But let's just say it happened, it was real. And that this was a real contentious lawsuit and all the rest of it, right? Did I say contentious? Contentious, right? I'm not sure. But if this was, this was like a real thing that happened. I went through something similar, and Amber Heard got a lot of the same characteristics as my ex, right? And, because of that, I should be rooting for Johnny Depp because, it is a sense my situation being played out in the media, right? And, similar, not exactly, but similar. But I didn't because I know there's a much deeper way of looking at this, and that is I married my ex for a reason. It wasn't an accident, and it benefited me on a spiritual level because I took all of it in the end with gratitude, as sucky as it was. And, I've been basically ostracized in the heartfulness system because of, the things that were said about me. So it's a very similar situation where people who know me know that the heartfulness, meditation is my favorite thing. It's my, it's my big thing. And, that part of my life and being a part of the community is over. And, I accepted that and I'm grateful for that as well. Right. But it sucked when it was happening and I could be really upset about it. And it seems extraordinarily unfair for me. If you take out the idea of no past lives, just in this life, I didn't feel like I deserved, what I got, right? If I throw out that there was no past lives or anything like that. If I just look at what I did in this life and, this situation, I would say, hey, I didn't deserve that, right? Of course, I don't do that because I believe in past lives and I experienced various benefits from going through this circumstance. And there was a reason for me to be in the relationship, right? And sometimes you're in a relationship that sucks, right? People get into relationships that suck, and you have to figure out what's inside of you that drew you to this person and this situation. It doesn't have to be just a romantic relationship. It could be a relationship with family members or colleagues at work or neighbors or whatever it is, right? But you got to realize that anything in your life has to exist inside of you. Otherwise, it doesn't exist outside of you. That you're manifesting these people just like they're manifesting you. And so there are no victims in that sense, right? People think there's victims. Well, that would mean that there are things that are happening out there that are not a part of God's plan and that your soul didn't sign off for them and it just happened randomly. That there's a reason for everything, good or bad, in your life. And it's inside of you and you're a part of it. And, if both people are going down a dark path and they both engage in negative behaviors and, fights and say horrible things to each other and, wish horrible things on each other, right? And are just sitting there hating, like I've talked about how your hate is inside of you. The object of your hate is outside of you. The hate itself is inside of you. And if you don't have hate inside, you can't hate somebody no matter how badly they treat you or how bad they suck, right? And so all of those things need to be understood by this commenter and then these Me Too people, that there were no real victims here. And so maybe Amber Depp was telling the truth, at least some of it. But what we're, all reacting to is that her fake crying and her fake trauma and the way that she was acting just didn't, it sucked and it was insincere and it, wasn't believable and it wasn't real, right? It wasn't authentic. But Johnny Hurd, which I covered before, is, if he isn't a devil worshiper, he's devil worshiper adjacent. Like he was in this movie, The Ninth Gate. I went through this before, right? This guy was just, he's not a good guy. And so for this commenter to say, well, we're just tired of being deceived and people like Amber Heard, yeah, but Johnny Depp is a deceiver as well, right? There's no heroes here. There's no winners. There's no protagonist in this story, right? There isn't, the guy was, defending Roman Polanski and worked for him, made that movie The Ninth Gate, then all these people he's hung out with, all the devil-worshipping stuff, all the weird stuff. He's certainly a better actor than she is, and whatever performance he gave was better than hers, but that doesn't make this truth or justice or any of these things, right? And so it's looking at it the wrong way. They're feeding you this thing, the beast is. They want you to see it. They want you to be involved with it. They want you to pick sides. That's how it works. And, you're buying into that, right? It's all fake in one way or another. It's all manipulation. Like this person's saying, let me go back to that comment again. The person's saying, this is far bigger than just two humans. This is not about stardom. This is far more than sweeping than that. This is far more sweeping than that. This is about the depths of visceral, gut-wrenching twisting of truth. Yeah, the whole thing is twisting of truth. You got sucked into it. You were conned into believing that there was a hero and a villain, there was a victim and an abuser, and that Johnny Depp was somehow, and it wasn't any of that. The whole thing's a twisting of truth, right? Johnny Depp is a twister of truth, whoever he is. And so you got sucked into it, right? You got sucked into believing that there was some sort of justice here, right? Humans are sick of getting played everywhere they turn. Yeah, you just got played by getting sucked into this thing. You got sucked in. I mean, just look at the kind of person Johnny Depp is. There's nothing redeemable about the guy. He just presented a better whatever it was, right? She presented as insincere and all these things. And it was sort of like I mean, the problem with the Me Too thing is a lot of the women who were Me Too'd, they were using their sexuality to gain whatever it was. I'm not saying all of them, but most of them, many of them, they were on the casting couch. They were using sexuality to get parts and things like this. They were playing on men's weaknesses and things, which happens all the time, right? And so, it's just a big frickin' mess out there. And there's getting sucked into these things like they matter. They don't. There's no truth in this thing, right? The only truth is that you're being sucked in and deceived and distracted and, sucked down to a lower level of vibration, right? And so, there's no truth or position in this thing other than, yeah, this is, fake or whatever it is, right? It's fake in one way or another. And it's there for, it's not there for your better self-interest. All right, so one of my viewers then said to me in a comment, what do you think about the new Hunter Biden news? And I said, what are you talking about? In my mind, because it wasn't a conversation. And so I'm grateful the person brought it up, but it would have been more helpful if they were more specific. People assume I know all the news, and I don't. I would say about 40% of everything I cover here, people send me links to articles or mention or things that, somebody sends me, right? And so I wasn't aware that Hunter Biden's ex-wife, here she is here, Kathleen Booley, Biden's ex-daughter-in-law, opens up about marriage to Hunter. Let's see what they have to say here at Yahoo News. He became my own addiction. Ex-wife of President Joe Biden's son Hunter says she has total control over her life now, but didn't then. 5 years after her marriage, her divorce, as she opens up about her marriage in her new memoir, Booley describes her ex-husband's drug addiction, her response to his infidelity, including an affair with her widow sister wives. This is Hunter Biden's dead brother's wife, who he cheated on and had a 2-year affair with her, and it cost him his marriage to his other wife, who wrote this book. And her challenges integrated into the Biden family. Excerpts of If We Break, let's go back there to get that all. Excerpts of If We Break were published Wednesday by People magazine. Here's the People magazine. A lot of that stuff is here with it, what they just showed you there. 5 years after the end of the 24-year marriage, she says she has forgiven President Biden's younger son, Hunter, who now has a new wife and a 2-year-old son, for the tens of perhaps hundreds of thousands of dollars he squandered on his addiction, for his lies, for his infidelities, and whatever comes of the Justice Department investigation into his finances and business affairs. Whether or not I'm questioned, I couldn't be of any help, she says. I kept my head so deeply buried in the sand on our finances. I have forgiven him, she says. Anger is such a heavy weight to carry, and I was a lot of pain. There was a lot that happened that was very hard for me, and when I made the decision to divorce, I wanted to let go of all that. And so, aside from cheating on her with his, here's the People magazine one. So she looks a little bit, not very friendly. So aside from cheating on her with his dead brother's wife for 2 years and ending their marriage, he was also banging strippers and crackheads and things like this, right? Hoes, and coming back to their marital bed, right? God knows what kind of diseases he has and, all of it. And of course, using various types of intravenous drugs. I mean, he could have like hepatitis or any number of things that he could give to her, right? And so there's a physical risk and then all the rest of it. Look at Jojo Magoo, looks pretty grumpy there. But now they have this big family, and it's supposed to be this great family. This guy is, a criminal and a crackhead and, an impregnator of a stripper named Dallas from Arkansas, right? That never gets old. And, he's got a child with this stripper, and this guy doesn't acknowledge the child. Here is his former lover and his brother's dead widow. And a couple of these kids are his, and all these kids hang out together. A lot of them are college age, right? And she's the odd person out, right? And so she did nothing wrong, but she's missing out on all the reindeer games, right? All the celebration of her, her father-in-law becoming president, and the family's all together. Her kids are hanging out. They're all, being like a royal family. There's his brother and his brother's wife, who he ended up leaving his wife for. And that's, got to be painful, right? The sister wives thing. I mean, this guy's just an absolute disaster and mess. And she was cut out of everything, even though she wasn't the one who was the cheater, the liar. I mean, all this stuff that the guy did. I mean, the guy was, think about, like, this doesn't seem to be one of those hit piece stories. But think about, just the story in itself. Like, she says she's not being bitter, but just this is her story. She married into, like, what is political royalty, a guy who was a senator for years and on all these committees, one of the more powerful senators, ran for president a number of times, became vice president, and then now president, right? And his son, she was, with this guy. He's out there doing all kinds of drugs, making his money off of his father's name from foreign companies, companies in in contentious areas of China and the Ukraine, and they're paying him millions of dollars, and he's just smoking crack, banging hoes, banging his dead brother's wife, and this woman's living through all that, raising the kids. The guy's, plowing through all their money that he makes, his by ill-gotten gains, right? Here they are together. And she's a part of this disastrous family that they're trying to, whitewash and make them look like they're some great family. I mean, Jojo Magoo always says, "I swear on my Biden name, right? I swear as a Biden, right? like Bidens are something great." And this guy is just a disaster himself, and his son is even worse. And then, the guy bangs a stripper named Dallas, who's from Arkansas, has a baby, a crack stripper baby, who JoJo refuses to acknowledge during his father's campaign. And then he leaves 3 hard drives with some multiple computer stores, one in particular, and it has all this incriminating information, embarrassing stuff. And like, she could just say that in the most nice, sweetest way and, not hammering the guy. And it's a disaster, right? Look at the cover, If We Break, a memoir of marriage, addiction, and healing. And so look at there they are on the beach with their heads to each other. But it's not just this guy who's a disaster. Jojo Magoo got caught plagiarizing speeches early on in his career. He had a number of sort of ethic violations, and he was always groping and glomming on people and touching them, and and then all the gaffes that he had, caught in one lie after another as he ran for president. He was probably always like just this close to getting busted, right? I mean, he had powerful connections, but I'm sure he did a lot of dirty dealing. And then he was a gaffe magnet forever, and now he has dementia, right? And so, this whole family's like a family that's ready to break, right? Like, they're all ready to break. They're all falling apart all the time. They're all just, one bad day away from collapsing completely, right? And she was living through this addiction with this guy, and she's been sidelined, and his son is still a part of the family festivities, celebrating all the stuff that goes along with being like a politically royal family, a presidential family, And it seems like this might have been some sort of way to minimize the hard drives. Like it's going out on People magazine, and maybe they had a bunch of ghostwriters and people around her to, write this in such a way that they. I mean, Hunter Biden wrote his own memoir about his crack addiction, and then he was, Jimmy Kimmel got on his knees and serviced him. It was so bad. Go watch that thing if you want to see a comedian just completely slather over a crackhead, right? A presidential crackhead when he should be making jokes about him. But he just, serviced the guy. But they've done these things before when there's a scandal and they roll something out to minimize the story. But there's no way to minimize this story other than not covering it, which is what the media does. Because any part of this story, the banging his cheating on his wife with his dead brother's widow, if that was just one thing, but then there's the in and out of rehab and the crack addiction, and then there's the business dealings with foreign companies selling access to his father, which is, got to be criminal. I mean, all of it, right? And then there's just all the pictures and the stripper baby. I mean, like he banged his dead brother's wife when he was with his wife, and then he also impregnated a stripper right after that, right? And a stripper named Dallas from Arkansas, and had a stripper crack baby. I mean, the guy's like hit for the cycle, right? Unbelievable. I mean, it's just what a wonderful story, and the media refuses to cover it. So I was just about done with this video. I made I've added a little comment here. It'll be at the end, an epic Bob Saget comment. And I was thinking about this, right? And I said it, this is being a little bit redundant, but I'm saying this in a different way. And so let's say Hunter Biden's ex-wife goes to some Al-Anon support group, right? I went to one of these, I took a class on addictions in graduate school. And my teacher wanted us to go to AA and Al-Anon. So this is in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where I think it's like 70, back then it was like 70% women and 30% men. I mean, it was just some weird population. There was a lot of women that went out there for whatever reason, some Thelma and Louise thing, a lot of trust funders, people from California that went there. And it was a very new age place. And I went to a school that was sort of new agey. It was a new agey counseling program. And so the teacher says, you need to go to an AA meeting and go to an Al-Anon meeting. And I don't remember much about the AA meeting. I knew a lot about AA just from, working as a counselor and my work in graduate school. But I knew almost nothing about Al-Anon. And all the people who were in the class, many of them were, former addicts, or they had, parents who were alcoholics, were ragging on Al-Anon as being a bitch session, right? Like all these women would go there and they all were victims. They all were complaining, right? And like I was like, knew nothing about it. But I go there and I'm the only dude and there's about 40 women, right? And, people think that's a good thing, but it's not. And I have to introduce myself as an observer, which, to have a man there observing, they were all like glaring at me like, Tom Cruise in the living room scene when those divorcee women would all get together and bitch about men, right? And it was brutal. Like, I mean, I remember like lots of the stories. I remember how uncomfortable I felt and how like they were like, all right, now let's take a intermission. And I'm like, there's more? Like, there's like another hour of this thing. I'm like, oh my God, this is the longest period of time of my life, right? The longest hour and a half of my life. Must have been like 2 hours. I don't know what it was. Brutal meeting. And so let's say Hunter Biden's wife goes to that, one of those meetings, one of those Jerry Maguire, his girlfriend's sister's living room where they all come together and there are all these divorcees bitching about their husbands, right? And they say, okay, what's your story? And she says, well, I married a guy, he's a lawyer. Oh, wow, he's a lawyer. Oh, that's pretty cool. He's successful. He made some money. Well, yeah, but he also has lots of addictions. Oh, he's an alcoholic. Yeah, but also, he smokes crack and he does meth. He does every other drug. He's been in and out of rehab for, 8 times. He's blown hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of dollars on his drugs. And, he's got a real problem. Oh, that's bad. Yeah. But he also works for foreign governments. He never shows up for work. They just pay him. And he goes out and he does all these drugs. He also goes to the VIP room and he bangs strippers, strippers named Dallas from Arkansas, in these high-end strip clubs, and he spends tens of thousands of dollars in there. Oh, that's pretty bad too. That's pretty brutal. Yeah, and he left me. He's got a brother who recently died of brain cancer. Oh, wow, that's horrible. Yeah, and there's some other tragedy in his family. His mom died when he was a kid, and his sister was in the car, and it was, kind of a tragedy. And now his brother's dead of brain cancer. And so he left me for his brother's widow, who, he's threatening suicide, and she took his gun away from him because she thought he might hurt himself or kill himself. And she threw it in a trash can, a loaded gun, next to a high school, and a homeless guy caught it. Wow, this is is this a real true story? Is this a real story? Yeah, and by the way, his dad was vice president for a while. Joe Biden. I mean, this is her story. And I didn't even get into the hard drive or now that Biden's president, right? I mean, it's any one of those things. Four women are sitting around, talking about their deadbeat husbands. Yeah, my husband left me and he doesn't pay child support. He disappeared. I haven't seen him in years. Doesn't speak to the kids. Oh yeah, well my husband, he left me for a stripper, and he, he, sometimes he pays child support and he wants to visit the kids, but he's a horrible person. Well, my husband, he's a deadbeat and he didn't work and support the family, so I threw his ass out. What about you, Linda Lou? Well, my husband, he was addicted to crack and he left me for his brother's widow. Okay, you win, right? And so, there's that. Let's get to the comment here. Okay, so I just got one more thing. I got one more comment to get to, but there's another comment I'll probably cover on my other channel. I'm going to talk about the royal family and dropping like flies on my Apocalypse channel. But this comment was to this video. Let me pull it up here. Old Bob Saget video says it all. Kim eats the fake meat, and Alyssa Milano tells JoJo to grow a pair of ovaries. And so I showed in that video, most of you probably already saw it, that Bob Saget was doing a set on Rodney Dangerfield. He was like being introduced as a comedian. And he just rifled off a bunch of bad jokes. And one of them was a pedo joke where he said he's married to a 7-year-old girl, and he expanded on it. He had 3 or 4 jokes, and he just rattled them off. No delivery, no timing, no comedic skill. It wasn't funny. It was weird. I mean, it was, creepy and also weird. And he sucks as a comedian. He always sucked. He was never funny. He was never somebody who, there's something that people exude when they're funny. Like there's a condition. I talk about the spiritual conditions in the heartfulness meditation. And, when Master Charji, the third master of the system, would have a spiritual gathering, he would come out and sit with everybody. Not everybody, but everyone who was there, right? And he would just, be sitting there. And he was often in one of these just laughing moods. And he could be speaking in a foreign language, and he spoke many foreign languages. Sometimes it'd be in India. And let's say there was a gathering for a specific group of people there from Europe or from some part of India, and he spoke something like 29 languages. He would be speaking in a foreign language, and I wouldn't understand the jokes, but I would laugh anyway because it was just that feeling. Everyone would be laughing. Everyone would feel light. When you're in one of those really laughy moods where everything's funny and you have that, endorphins or dopamine in your system, wherever it is. And so there's people who exude that, and they can pull that out of other people, and Bob Saget isn't one of them. But this person who has a name like they must be a flat earther and, whatever kind of truther they are, and this is what this person wrote. Bob Set was in the 80s. He was funny to Democrats back then. Well, I don't think it was just Democrats. I think it was also I mean, it was probably even more so people who were Republicans would watch Full House and watch America's Funniest Videos, and it was old people, right? So both Democrats and Republicans. So this person, I don't know what he's thinking. He spoke fast and got a lot of jokes out in 30 minutes. It isn't speed dialing. He spoke fast and got a lot of jokes out in 30 minutes. That's not easy. Well, there's, now speed rappers like, Eminem's being one of them. And then, I mean, this guy Treach or whatever his name was, one of the first ones, Treach. And then there was just all these speed rappers, right? And they speak way faster than Bob Saget. And, it's not about how many jokes you get in a set. Right? It's the quality of jokes and timing. And, I mean, there's a whole art form to it, and Bob Saget doesn't have it. He spoke fast and got a lot of jokes out in 30 minutes. That's not easy. It takes you an hour to make me laugh twice. Why is everything you comment on negative? Well, it isn't. I say plenty of good things about various things. But this is what people want. This is what people like you want, right? Somebody who believes the earth is flat, you're going to run into a lot of negativity. I'm saying that because he has one of the NASA scientists as a name of the, in his username in a derogatory way. Why is everything you comment on negative? Why are you watching me then, right? Go watch a bunch of old Bob Saget. Well, he can rattle off a bunch of jokes and crack you up. A person who just left me a negative comment. I mean, you don't have to be here. Like I say it over and over again. If you've been here for any length of time, I don't have a complaint department. And certainly you're not going to win any friends here. I mean, not just me, but everybody listening. If you're defending Bob Saget, saying that he was married to a 7-year-old and all the other creepy stuff he said, and trying to say this guy was funny when he clearly wasn't. He was not a good stand-up comic, right? I'm not a professional stand-up comic. I make jokes here. There's a comedy channel, and I, think a lot of my stuff is funny, and that's all that matters, really, because there's no one else here. I mean, people say, I don't have an audience response. People say they're laughing or whatever, that they're spitting up on their keyboard or whatever, whatever people say. But I think it's funny. If you don't, you're welcome to leave. Like, why would you stay here if you don't think it's funny, right? But by comparing me to Bob Saget, I mean, I'm a lot funnier than Bob Saget. Not that, I mean, it's not even a competition because he's just weird and awkward and a sellout. And he sucks, right? He sucks. He's not as funny as a stand-up comic. He's not funny as even his wife was giving him mercy laughs. He's not funny. He's not a funny person. He was one of the top celebrities. He was on America's Famous Videos. That was one of the number one shows, maybe the number one show on TV. It was the YouTube before YouTube, when people used to send in VHS tapes of home videos, and, it was basically an hour of YouTube. And people loved it. And he would give these horrible jokes. I don't think he wrote them. And there was a bad laugh track. He wasn't funny as a stand-up comic. And he was on that horrible show, Full House, which was a popular show. He was like the number one celebrity. He was like in Will Smith territory there for a while. And he just, didn't deserve it. He didn't deserve it because he was funny or, it was because some other reason. They chose to make that guy famous. There's people out there, and they did this with Saturday Night Live, where they would convince you that something was funny, right? Maybe your friends would be laughing, so you laugh along with it, or you'd go to a movie or you watch Saturday Night Live, and you didn't necessarily think it was funny, but everyone else was laughing, and, it was like they forced you, and that's what laugh tracks are, forcing you to think something's funny when it's not. And if you take away the laugh track, you're like, oh, that's not funny at all. And shows that don't have a laugh track that can make you laugh are really funny, especially without a live audience. I mean, it's, that's spectacularly funny then. And so, there's different levels and sophistication of humor and everything else. But Bob Saget doesn't rate on any of them. If you think he's funny, then you shouldn't be here. If you think it's okay for him to say he was married to a 70-year-old, you shouldn't be here either, right? Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.